Okay then. I said what I had to say.
Allegedly took for 4 straight hours.
You see why the devil tried so aggressively to discredit my voice.
So you want to say to your congregation?
No, sir.
Good luck to you, Pastor.
Thank you.
You blind! If you sit in your church and you know, well, why can't I live like that? You can't tell me you sit in church and you don't be like, well, why can't I live like my pastor? Why can't I live like my first lady? I'm pretty sure they don't want me to be there because I said Christianity, the church. I said that.
You don't even go to this church. How you gonna tell me how to pastor this church? How about you ain't even saved? How you gonna tell me how to pastor this church?
You won't believe what gospel singer LeAndria Johnson recently revealed about Pastor Creflo. After years of remaining quiet, she has now decided to tell the truth, and let's just say it's sending shockwaves across the Christian community. What she learned on one of the most controversial megachurch pastors in America is beyond alarming. Stay tuned, because this is one tale you won't want to miss. LeAndria Johnson has always been recognized for her genuine honesty and uncensored approach to spirituality. Unlike many gospel musicians who carefully cultivate their public image, LeAndria has never been hesitant to speak her mind. Whether it's about the hardships of being a gospel singer, her battles with addiction, or the hypocrisy she's experienced in the church. But this time, she's taken things to a whole new level. For years, allegations have lingered around Pastor Creflo, a well-known televangelist with a history of scandal. From his opulent lifestyle to his preaching on prosperity gospel, many have questioned if his ministry is genuinely about faith or merely about money. But what LeAndria is uncovering today isn't simply another hearsay. It's something that might shatter the fundamental basis of his ministry.
Tell me you sit in church and you don't be like, well, why can't I live like my pastor? Why can't I live like my first lady? Or they entourage? What? You can't tell me you don't feel that way. Okay, when I say Christianity and church, what I mean is it's a lot of shit going on in the church. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. I spoke the truth. I stand on it, and I do not regret what I said. So,
in this video, we're going to go down precisely what LeAndria Johnson has disclosed, why she's coming out now, and how this revelation is influencing the church world. But here's the weirdest part. This isn't just about Creflo. What LeAndria has disclosed shows a far deeper problem in the gospel business, one that many have suspected but few have dared to talk about openly. So what precisely did she say? And how does it tie to Creflo's prior controversies? Let's get into it. LeAndria Johnson has never been one to shy away from controversy. From the time she won Sunday Best, she was distinct from the conventional gospel musician. While some presented a polished, picture-perfect image, LeAndria was candid about her challenges, her previous missteps, and her continuing fights. But no one anticipated her to come out with anything this explosive. It all started during a live broadcast when LeAndria, in her typical uncensored fashion, began to describe the corruption she had experienced in the gospel business. At first, it sounded like she was speaking generically, denouncing the way certain pastors and gospel performers abuse their following for financial benefit. But then she unleashed a surprise. She mentioned Pastor Creflo explicitly, accusing him of exploiting his ministry to trick people into providing money under false pretenses. According to LeAndria, she had personally experienced cases when church members were coerced into paying significant quantities of money, sometimes even when they couldn't afford it. She said that individuals were being promised financial breakthroughs in exchange for their gifts, but in fact, the only one profiting was Creflo himself. She also asserted that some of these offerings weren't merely voluntary gifts, but rather requests made under severe spiritual pressure. And here's where it becomes even more surprising. LeAndria implied that she wasn't the only gospel musician who knew about this. She stated that many inside the business are well aware of these tactics, but chose to keep quiet since speaking up might cost them their livelihoods. So why did LeAndria decide to stand forward now? And what precisely does she claim to have seen behind the scenes? The answers will leave you dumbfounded. LeAndria Johnson's choice to come out against Pastor Creflo wasn't simply a spur-of-the-moment tirade. According to people close to her, she had been keeping onto this knowledge for years, wrestling with whether or not to divulge what she knew. But after watching several churchgoers being monetarily drained in the name of religion, she ultimately decided enough was enough. LeAndria explained that throughout her climb in the gospel business, she was exposed to an altogether new world, one that the public never gets to witness. She recalled being invited to special events where high-profile pastors, gospel musicians, and industry executives openly discussed the economics of church. And yes, she called it a company, because according to her, that's precisely what it is. At these gatherings, she overheard talks about how to boost contributions from churches. She reported scenarios when pastors would discuss techniques to induce greater donating, whether via fear-based sermons, promises of supernatural blessings, or even direct coercive tactics. Some leaders, she alleged, understood just what words to use to arouse emotions and make people feel bad if they didn't donate enough. And the higher the contribution, the bigger the so-called blessing they would get. LeAndria's most damaging charge was that certain churches, like Creflo had mechanisms in place to measure how much members were contributing. She stated that select church authorities maintained tabs on who was contributing the most, and the Utah Amphi. These individuals were offered special treatment, private meetings with the pastor, admission to exclusive events, and even personal predictions that sounded suspiciously targeted to their financial standing. Meanwhile, those who struggled to donate were typically chastised, either directly or indirectly, for their lack of faith. But the most startling part? LeAndria stated that certain pastors, like Creflo, weren't merely utilizing church funds to support their ministry. She stated that millions of dollars were being transferred into personal accounts used to support luxurious lifestyles that included private aircraft, expensive residences, and designer clothing. And while church members were scraping together their last bucks to spread a so-called miraculous seed, these pastors were living like kings. She didn't stop there. LeAndria went on to add that she has personally been contacted with offers to engage in these financial scams. She stated that some business insiders pushed her to play the game, to preach about success and financial rewards in return for a portion of the payments. If she had consented, she might have been earning millions just like the others, but something about it never set right with her. She couldn't bring herself to take advantage of people's faith, but here's where it becomes much more troubling. LeAndria hinted that there were terrible penalties for individuals who refused to keep quiet. She alluded